Good evening, ladies and gentlemen out there in YouTube land. I am Deleted Scenes, human being, American, and YouTube Ronin. And I would like to welcome you to tonight's episode of Live from Sparkwood in 21, a retrospective series about the cult classic television series Twin Peaks, created by the late, great David Lynch, along with Mark Frost. Joining me on this journey are superfans last college rep Telly.
Hello, hello.
Netters Network.
Good evening.
And flappy apologist, Aged Boomer.
Very funny. You know, I've been considering starting a change.org petition, change.org petition to have Flappy's visage added to Mount Rushmore to make him the fifth face of Mount Rushmore.
But
why is that
they
funny?
would do it. But would they do it to scale with the presidents that are there, so it would be little tiny?
You know something? See, that's what you would do. That's what you would do to me. He was an American. He was an American bird.
He wasn't a president, though.
Where's that rule written? You have to be a president to be on Mount Rushmore.
The fact that the four folks up there are presidents.
You know something? We can change the rules, okay? Imagine having that big beak, like kind of just hitting into Teddy Roosevelt's monocle. You could have like little shattered pieces of shattered glass coming off of it.
Tap.
What do you think, huh?
Yeah, that's not the way carving into a mountain would work.
We have new technology now.
Oh,
right?
Okay.
We have laser
Yeah.
engraving.
Oh, yeah, we'll pour a bunch of cement down the side of the mountain and start over again. Yeah, that's
you know something? We'll start a new Mount Rushmore.
We could. Mount Flapmore.
No, how about famous animals of cinema? We could have Flappy. We could have Benji up there.
Tin, Flipper.
We're not going to have more than one dog, dude. You got to pick one dog. Flipper would be up there, yes.
I only said Rin Tin Tin. I didn't say anything.
I said Benji. You want to put Rin Tin
Benji?
Tin
No.
up there.
I think Rin Tin Tin comes before.
Oh, he's more iconic than Benji, huh?
I think so. Saying. Although, neither one of us said Lassie. I mean, that would have been fair.
No, Lassie's
you
can't have Lassie.
And you want to put Flappy. And what about that llama that was at the veterinarian there? What?
Where?
In Twin Peaks.
We're not going to put the llama. No, the llama was. That's a topic for another time.
What about Waldo? At least Waldo got a speaking line.
Oh, you know something.
He
was very angry about that, by the way.
Want me to throw something at
Who
him.
was?
Flappy was. He was furious about that.
I'm sure. He also wanted top billing. I know.
Now, Boomer, I've been meaning to talk to you about this anti-llama stance that you have taken in recent weeks.
Right?
I do have a statement. I, Deleted Scenes, are not affiliated with Aged Boomer. I do not agree with him on his anti-llama stance. I have always been pro-llama. I have many friends who are llamas. I have dated llamas.
What?
They are good people. And I'm syncing my own broadcast very quickly.
Pay very close attention to the closing credits at the end. I pretty much have a disclaimer that the opinions of any one of the panelists don't necessarily affect those of the others and their brands.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, we actually do have people watching us right now. And some of them have joined us in the chat. Channel member JPRPH1. Charlotte Nightstar, the werewolf, says there will be no next David Lynch. Well, why is this even a question to be asked? Well, Lynch was an artist of his own. No one can replace him. Heck, there are those who claim Zack Snyder to be the heir of Lynch, which I find utterly absurd. Well, it's the question is not so much replacing David Lynch, because that's not the intent.
What's the next iconic director that's going to be iconic like David Lynch was? That's what we're thinking. Yes.
Yeah. Who can achieve the status that he achieved over his career? Who out there now can be not replace David Lynch, but be the next? And I'm sure we all have a couple. I know I do have an interesting one that comes to mind, but I'm curious to see who the rest of the panel has come with. Big Al Presents has joined us. I am going to be joining Al Friday night for a viewing of Disney's Those Darn Ants. No, sorry, Them from 1954, starring James Whitmore and Marshall Dillon himself, James Arness. I'm also going to be joining Al the first week of February for a special Saturday edition, and we're going to be watching Damnation Alley.
Ooh.
All right. Connie Cleary has joined us. Faithful Blue Wrench channel member, Bird Woman of YouTube. Watch out for her channel, Fluff Chick Productions. Let's see. Daniel Berry Sports Highlights. And happy Tuesday to you too, sir. Space Fraggle has joined us. Just stopped in to give a thumbs up over on Curtis's channel. Yes, our friend Curtis Selby, the Tired Midnight Blogger, is in the middle of a live stream right now. I'm sure he will wrap it up and join us before the end. And welcome, Mel, NYC Reviews. Good to see you.
And Mel says, I'm not one of those people who turn relatively new media, The Wizard of Oz and Star Wars, for example, into some new religion, but Twin Peaks has been a part of my life for over 30 years. It was a gift from my mom. Your mom's got good taste.
Yeah.
Nate is asking, so the question is, who would be the next brilliant director to be misunderstood and underappreciated? Well, hopefully not. All right. All right. So, who would like to begin the discussion?
Oz Perkins. Well, he does mainly horror movies, though, right? So maybe that doesn't count. He has that monkey movie coming out. He did the Blackcoat's Daughter. Ever see the Blackcoat's Daughter?
Not straight through. I am familiar with it though. Yeah.
Okay, I like that one. That was a good one. Okay, so I don't know. He's Anthony Perkins' son.
Yes, he is. So since you've seen the Blackcoat's Daughter,
yes.
Have you seen Longlegs?
Oh, he did that.
Yes, he did.
I need to catch up on a lot of movies. I will watch Longlegs now, but he does mainly horror. And is David Lynch horror? Is he not? What genre is he? Is David Lynch even, or is he a genre unto himself? I don't know.
I think he's a genre unto himself for sure.
Okay. All right.
His films have elements of horror.
Yes.
Sure. Also, fantasy. I would say with the time travel elements that Twin Peaks has, maybe dipping a toe into science fiction. But David Lynch was a genre unto himself. And certainly, I would have liked to have seen him make a straight up horror movie. He never would have done it.
No.
just like he never would have made a straight up action movie. There's a reason he didn't do Return of the Jedi. Because that movie was going to be what it was going to be with or without him.
Right.
But yeah, Oscar Perkins definitely a good choice. I ask you if you've seen Longlegs, because there are those, there's a fan theory out there that Longlegs and Blackcoat Starter are in the same universe.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, no, I definitely need to watch it. But I did like Blackcoat's Daughter. I thought that was a good horror movie.
I've heard good things about it, yeah.
Yes. So, I don't know. I just threw him out there because I saw commercials for the monkey recently. It's like, the monkey looks fun. The evil monkey, I guess that would just... And I found out that I thought James Wan was directing, but I guess he's just producing it. But they have Oz Perkins making it. I don't know. What are the big visionary movies that you've seen? I mean, you're more of a movie buff, I think, than any of us in some ways, at least for modern movies. Yeah. So have you seen anything like Robert Eggers, maybe? But I don't really consider him like Lynch. So I don't know. That's what I'm trying to think.
Well, I would have said Eggers at one point. And hello to Tom Conkle joining us in the chat.
Welcome.
Welcome, sir.
Your timing couldn't be better, Tom, because honestly, if you don't mind me jumping my place in queue, because the timing is so perfect. And that's if we're going to talk about not even avant-garde, but independent thinking directors, Tom Conkle.
Yeah.
Even if he hadn't jumped in, I was going to say Tom Conkle, but he's here, so I'm going to bring him up.
We're thinking who are the new visionary directors? That's what we're thinking. Like who are the new David Lynches out there? Because we're losing a lot of the greats now, and I'm just thinking who's replacing them. But yeah,
I think that maybe I'm being harsh, but I've been thinking about this all week, and my thought is that if you want someone with even close to the spirit of David Lynch, then you got to not look at your mainline studio directors. I'm sorry, they're all corporate shills, in my opinion. You need to look to the independents. You need to look to, even if they've worked for big studios at any point in time, they establish themselves as being independent. They're critical of the studios. I'm thinking Tarantino, for example, especially with some of the things he said just recently. Like I said, Tom Conkle, I'm not bringing you up just because you're in the chat here, Tom. I would have been saying this even if you weren't listening in. If you would have asked me a year and a half to 2 years ago, I might have said Denis Villeneuve. Not so sure about that anymore. Let me send Tom the link real quick.
Yes, please do.
Yes,
because I think he might have. I think a director might have some insights, especially a director that that I've just cited as being relevant to this particular conversation, I suppose. I'm sending it to you on the X there, Tom. Give me a second.
See, now, I don't know a lot of directors. So, I mean, Tom Conkle is the first one that came to mind for me as well. So, definitely Tom Conkle. I'd be hard-pressed to tell you another director's name. I just don't follow that sort of thing. I don't usually follow directors, producers, and all that. So, when they talk about that in the movie awards things, and they're like, best director, best producer. I don't know who any of these people are.
Yeah.
But that's a problem. This used to be a big thing back in the day. You'd know who directors.
There's another point there, right? You're absolutely right. We've been talking a lot about the Oscars and all this stuff and how nobody cares anymore. And it's because I think the general movie-going public has kind of started to feel that the Hollywood hoi polloi are completely out of touch. The mystique is gone. They used to be American royalty. Now they're, un-American. Yeah.
Mel's putting
I said
Ari Aster's name out there as the director of Hereditary, Midsummer, and Beau is Afraid. He's also brought up Yorgos Lanthimos, The Lobster. Killing of a Sacred Deer was I thought a good film. Very much. It's again somebody who like Lynch is very much in his own genre. I think. Poor Things I purposefully stayed away from because do I want to sit through 2.5 hours of Mark Ruffalo? But
good point.
Do I want to sit through 2.5 hours of Mark Ruffalo? But
getting it together there.
He's catching up.
There you go.
Hello all.
Hello.
How are you?
Speaking of a director, that I considered up there.
That's very, very sweet of you. I saw you come up on my YouTube feed. I was taking a break. I'm actually cutting something right now, and I saw that, and I was like, "Ooh, that's an interesting subject." And actually, David Lynch is somebody I've met and worked with. So,
wow,
I can give you a couple cool stories.
Yes, please.
So, sort of on topic, but going into my bigger point. In the 90s, Artisan Entertainment hired me to do the first box set of Twin Peaks. We did the mastering of that. It had not come out on disc, at that point. Right. And so it was finished in standard def and the whole thing. Well, the sweet little part of it was they're like, oh, and David wants to take a look at the telecine and see how they look and do all that. You can just go over to his house. What? Yeah. So that was kind of fun. And at the time, he was doing the movie about the guy who he rides his riding mower across America. Yes. Kind of, that film. And so I did the pilot episode, and that they call it setting looks. You set a look, and because nobody had really done a television show that looked like Twin Peaks before, you had to be very careful. There's a lot of saturated colors. He loved to be just kind of, it was like a surreal soap opera mixed with a murder thriller kind of thing. So you had to kind of get it right. And to his credit, there's really only one way that it worked. And it was the way he had it in his head, which to me is what an auteur is. So I go over and he's on his, his sofa, his thing. He's like, Tommy, come on in here. Now sit down. I got, you like pie or, the whole thing. So we popped it in and I watched it and I listened to his process because little shots would then spiral his brain off to whatever. There's that. Gosh, I love pines. You love trees. There's just something about a tree. And you could tell that he genuinely loved the world that he built and that he lived in it and he inhabited it. And I think an auteur works against, because those are the things they're concerned with, they work against the sort of corporate structure that we have right now. And I think you made that point a little while ago, and rightly. The framework that spawns a David Lynch or an independent filmmaker was so different. For example, I did a short, just before I moved to LA, I went to American University and I did a short called Infestation, and it was about a guy wakes up and finds that his house has been infested with clowns. And so, like you, and I opened it, and I opened it. I wanted to have a crane shot at the beginning, and of course, I was a student, going to AFI and American University in Washington, and so I called in a light bulb burned out at the street light in front of my house, and it's about 50 feet up. So the big thing shows up to take it up, and I go, listen, the bulb's fine, but can I ride the basket up with this camera and get a crane shot with it? Like, all right. So I get in there and we go up, and that's the spirit. It's like I saw it in my head. And I'm like, how do I make that work? So I go, just let it out. Let out the hydraulics. And so I just wrote it down, filming with my 16 millimeter Arri, and I got this beautiful 60-foot crane shot going into the house, playing evil clown music and calliope music.
Oh my gosh, that's wonderful.
So I show it. Yeah, I show it at the AFI in Washington, and David is one of the alumni. He went to the American Film Institute. He was a student there in the 70s.
Wow.
So he goes, they had a panel. It won something. It won like Best Short or something in 1988. And the comment was, the whole idea of, the evil clowns, that's just fantastic. That's just, you pull it off. And he didn't remember this or any of it. But I'm sitting there talking to him, watching his process. And I thought, why is it now, I'm an independent filmmaker. And though I've made a feature and making other features, the difference was back then there was someone to go to that if you believed in it, you could get the film out. Like Eraserhead, you could have it out and be out in a theater selling tickets for, 6 months. And you need to be discovered because it wasn't just, the regular product where it's like it's easily packaged. I mean, you're like, gosh, did you see the midnight show of Eraserhead or, Rocky Horror or anything like that? It built a following around him that then he could go, well, this movie came out and it did well. Can I have money to make this movie? And you build an auteur that way. Now, if I didn't have, crowdfunding and the people that have, who would you go to? YouTube is happy to take your movie for free.
Right.
And play it. Streamers, let's think of all the auteurs that have grown out of all the money, the hundreds of millions of dollars that Netflix has spent making movies. Name one director that grew up out of that process that is an auteur.
Good point.
There's not one.
Can't think of one.
Yeah.
Can't think of one.
There's not one. They would go to a Scorsese. They would go to, somebody who's already big and pay them a ton of money. But what happened to the Roger Corman studios? What happened to Coppola, where Coppola would lift up somebody, like Lucas or whomever? They created an environment where you could make it. Battle Beyond the Stars. You get James Cameron. You give him a shot.
Yeah.
There's no place for us to go as filmmakers where we go, I've got a great idea. And it's not something that's like a white paper that Disney will get. And it's not something where I'm, swinging for the fence. And if it doesn't make $100 million, I never work again. And so for there to be an auteur, you're going to have to, I think Troy was saying it just as I came on, you have to look at the indie people because they have to believe in it and have a vision, but also have the skill set to finance it and find the money themselves. You spend most of your time begging for the money and looking for a way for permission to do your vision. So there are less auteurs now than the 90s for that reason. It's very simple. You're not going to get a Steven Soderbergh if all you can do is put it up on YouTube for free. You're not going to be able to, there's no visible proof. You can go, oh yeah, I got all these eyeballs and all the people watched it on YouTube. But the next time you try and make a movie, you're starting from scratch again. It's like, well, that's a YouTube video. That's not a movie. So there's no factory that allows you to create an auteur because an auteur is the antithesis of what everything is set up for now. They don't want auteurs at Disney. I mean, that would be their worst nightmare. Name the last auteur that made a Disney film. There isn't one.
Right.
It's a fascinating thing. I'm in the trenches right now. I was going to announce one thing that's kind of interesting is I just made an offer to an A-list actor who is in some of my favorite horror and action films from the 80s and 90s to be in this Island in the Stars movie. And we just literally made an offer. And I never thought I'd be in a position to be able to do that. But they're reading it right now. So that person would unlock the opportunity for me to make my next film. So it hinges on finding people that get what you're trying to do and your singular vision, and then you communicate that vision to them. And then really it's like a conductor in an orchestra. If I get everyone marching, they can bring their own music, they can bring their own stuff, but I have to have a vision. I have to have a certain tone that I set right away when I'm filming. This is how it's going to look. This is how it's going to feel. And people go, I get it. And I think the best auteurs, they articulate their vision perfectly and they manipulate the people in a good way to be exactly the kind of music that they need to create that, if that makes sense. And for me, until we change the system, now as it stands, where streamers don't produce auteurs and big companies don't want to take a chance, how are you going to have an auteur if you have no chances and no money? And you have to have a place where it's like, it's okay to fail with a $10 million film. Try it. There's a reason why Blumhouse is kicking butt with horror movies. They're low budget. They can take a chance. If one of them hits, it covers the nut for all the other films that didn't hit. But at least they have a place that you can go and pitch. And you can go, hey, I've got a great idea. And then you have a chance of getting it out. But that's one place in the entire system. It's crazy.
Do you something you were just saying there, I was wondering if you probably have, but have you thought about how scary it is? We talk all the time about how we feel like the corporate Hollywood engine is winding down. It's dying. And you can talk about fires. You can talk about, people leaving the industry or moving to other places. You could talk about, how politics and so forth have really hurt the business.
Yeah.
But when you point out,
they've turned on their own audience, which is part of the problem.
But when you exactly, but then you add in what you just said about directors. If that whole engine is dying, and you can't get you don't look for directors outside of that engine. What the heck happens? It has to be independent. There really doesn't, in my opinion, I don't think there's really any choice.
Yeah, I agree, Troy. You raise a great point. It's the reason why we see nothing but reboots. Like, hey, we're doing Harry Potter again. Hey, we're rebooting this movie again. And you just scratch your head. You're like, so you're going to make an almost as good version for triple the money. Well done.
Yep.
I can't tell you how many pitch meetings I go into. They're like, we love your films. We love your stuff. We saw your thing. So we have this property. And I'm like, oh, God. And they'll be like, it's this, we bought the Little Rascals. Do you have anything for that? And that's the problem. They want to trust somebody that's going to make them money. I genuinely think the big people at the very top just want to make money. They don't know how it's manufactured. They don't know how you make a film. It's like, make money. But the problem is the people they're trusting don't know what they're doing. Yeah. And so there's this kind of implicit problem with it where it's like, well, we're coming to you with these things that we think are going to make money because the marketing boys said that this is popular. But what they've lost is none of the stuff that you and I like, Troy, was ever the first white paper that came down. It was always something new. Who the heck thought of Taxi Driver? Who thought of Star Wars? It didn't come down as like, we knocked it around the marketing boys and we were thinking droids are big, It's like, there's just no way that you can innovate in that environment, because when you mitigate risk the way you are, and when these numbers are involved, and again, that's why I'm working in lower budget stuff, because I could spend 10 years of my life trying to convince somebody to make an original thing for a lot of money, or I can make these lower budget, I say lower budget, but they're still expensive movies, but at least it's the movie I wanted to see. It's not a concession where you literally have, I've been on sets, some movies, and I swear to you, and I, sometimes I was like shooting documentaries, sometimes I was acting, whatever. No one on it believed in it. No one knew anything about it. I once asked about Universal Monsters and the history of that to the people that were making this horror movie, and they looked at me like a dog hearing a strange sound. And I was like, so you don't even like horror? Like, no, I didn't have a horror movie on my thing. I wanted to, touch that base on my resume. That's why Star Trek stinks, Star Wars stinks. None of them like it. None of them do the research, and none of them are the originator of the idea. They're handling IP that they weren't even around when it came up.
Mm-hmm. I imagine you in a negotiation, and they come to you with that Little Rascals thing. I picture you going all Lionel Barrymore on them. Are you afraid of making money?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Do you have some aversion to printing money? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I've had that conversation, Troy. I really haven't. And part of it, there's a bittersweet, sad thing about it, because at some level, many of these people wanted to be storytellers, and they kind of gave up on it and decided to be gatekeepers. And now in this gatekeeper thing, their power is saying, no, So you come in with a great idea, they're like, it could be my job. It could be no, and the problem with it is that fosters a fear. And when you make decisions out of fear like that, or it's like, well, Tom, it's a great idea, but I don't know if everyone will like it. And one time I said, it doesn't matter if everyone likes it. If enough people like it, then you'll make enough money that we can make something else. You don't have to please everyone, just enough people. But this idea of like making the 4 quadrants. Are you familiar with the 4 quadrants?
Yeah.
Right? But they talk about 4 quadrant films. We want grandma to love it. We want the kids to love it. We want the teenagers to love it. We want the weird kids to love it. And you cannot, a camel is a horse by committee.
Right.
I'm thinking of
and
Scrooge
you can't
with
please
Bill
all
Murray.
the people all the time.
Exactly. And I wish this was not real, but every experience in real life has been that. And I love being a filmmaker. I've been here in Hollywood almost 30 years. And yes, I've made a good living and I've made a lot of other people rich. But at the end of the day, a spirit like David Lynch could only flourish in the 70s and 80s and 90s because by the time he was an older statesman, of course, he could say, hey, I'm interested in doing this project. I'm going to do this or that. And he's gracious and he is an interesting soul in that he has a great way of looking at it. But how am I ever going to get a chance to do that if there's literally no place to go except to find individuals who have money and convince them that your vision is worth doing and they're not even in the business?
Right, exactly.
Wasn't there an issue with Eastwood's movie just basically getting dumped to streaming? They didn't even really give it a theatrical run, this latest one? Yeah.
They didn't. They just dumped it. His probably last theatrical film. And I think they changed regimes during it. And the new guy was like, who's Clint Eastwood? Kind of thing. And they just dumped it because it's like they pick a winner or a loser and somehow that's their metric. Now, in the 70s, that would have gotten a release and maybe it would have been a hit, but at least someone would have bought a ticket.
Right.
That's my problem. Streaming, you never sell a ticket for your movie. If Jaws came out now, it would be a Netflix thing that I would sell to Netflix for, maybe license it to them for, $900,000 for 5 years. And then no matter how big a hit it was, it would never make another dime. It could never be a blockbuster. You don't get more money after you give it to them. That's
and the whole industry has gotten that way. It's really happened. I feel like in the last 5 years, they've gone all in on this streaming thing, and it's like I think I've said this to you. It's like the guy who starts a business of change machines. Wait a minute, you're saying I put out all these change machines and we broke even? We better put out more change machines. No, that's not how this works.
That's not how that works.
You used to have a revenue stream where you'd put it out in the theater, you'd get as much money as you could out of the theater, right? Then you would take it down to cable and get as much licensing out of it as you could. Then you would release it on physical media. In fact, since there was multiple mediums of physical media, we'll release it on VHS and then on DVD and then on Blu-ray, and then we'll do a special high definition one, and then, okay, now your licensee is going to change to somebody else. Now we'll do a commercial television version.
That's right.
All of this is money coming in. And then when you've exhausted all of that, okay, now we'll put it on our own proprietary streaming service.
Exactly.
As content.
Exactly. It's content, which just drives any filmmaker nuts to hear. And you're absolutely right. And what if it's good? If it's good and you get all those places where somebody can find it, I love that movie. That was great. Let's give them a little bit of money. Let's do this. Then you get to make another movie and you're not beholden to some corporation to go, I give you permission, to do it. You can say, look, people loved it. It was out on DVD. It sold real well. We're going to do it. That's where this flowering of stuff came from. But frankly, with Lynch, having DVD and being able to revisit his stuff, that revitalized his career incredibly. You know that.
It literally, and it's kind of and I hope I'm not speaking out of turn here, Deleted, but I do feel like that was part of why we put this Tuesday night stream together to talk about Twin Peaks, because we literally do have a whole new generation. And I don't mean to be diminutive, chat, to those of you that are younger, but a whole new generation of kids coming in and catching this at about the same age we were when we started watching it and going, hey, this is really great. And the story I've been sharing over and over again is I got lucky that Twin Peaks was just at the time that would hit me right. I missed it the first season it was out, but back then they immediately went into reruns in the off season. So I started watching every single episode from there. There was no VHS at the time, or at least it wasn't out on VHS.
Right.
There was no other option unless I sat in front of the TV and recorded it myself on VHS.
Yeah.
And until it was fine, and you may or may not know. Well, you probably do because you worked on it.
Yeah.
The VHS at the time, there was the whole licensing thing where they could put out the first season on VHS, but not the pilot.
That's right. That's why I mentioned the pilot. Yeah, the pilot was a separate entity. We had to show the pilot separately because the rights were tied up in different places, and then there was never a cohesive like telecine of the film to get Twin Peaks done. And I remember I was sitting in the bay and it comes up with the green title and the stuff. And I was like, I had never seen it in that resolution. This is like a 2K. This was a really good transfer, but this is the 90s. And I saw it and there was all these details in it that you just missed. And you reappreciate it because if you chose to on disc, you could just watch it as a film, like a continuously evolving film.
With a capping ending. Yeah.
Yeah. And there really wasn't much TV like that at all, especially not indie TV. I mean, it was just everyone was scratching their head. They're like, wait, you can do long form TV that's a long, continuous, dreamlike story? And there is nothing like that, you know? There was the mini series up until then, like Shogun or something, or Roots, you know? And I think, again, it goes back to something that you said that sparked my thought on it, which is it's as if now the person that designs the projector, you know, movie projector goes, hey, I make the thing that shows this thing. I think I know how to make a movie. I'm going to make these movies and do the thing, which is Netflix, essentially. The executives and tech guys that go, well, you know, I mean, we stream these movies. Let's get, who's that guy? The Rock? Let's get him in here. And then they do 5 of those for $300 million because it's something to put into the machine that makes it. But the problem is, go ahead.
I was going to say, they all look the same too, like lighting wise, camera wise. It's like,
well, you know why? I have it right here because I pitched Netflix and didn't want to do this, but they sent their specs, and there are only a few approved cameras. There's only a few approved lighting. They tell you the luminance, how they want the color balance. The whole thing is all laid out right here. And if I don't do these tech specs, they won't accept it. You know, like I can't do a black and white. I can't do this. I can't do that. So you're right. It's a technical blueprint that's coming back and going, okay, go ahead. Well, what that does is knock everything down to product, you know, and anything that new we're trying to do, people are getting inspired by this old stuff, but there's a reason why you're not seeing this influx of new and interesting stuff, is that mechanism. They're like, well, we've already got old David Lynch films. We're not going to give you money to do that. Can you make another version of X? And the problem with that is, if we can't break that cycle, if we don't have a place that we can go to foster these ideas and find out, well, what works? I've got an original story I want to tell. I shouldn't have to spend, 10 years moving coal around to look for diamonds. And especially when you can reach out to the audience now and go, hey, I'm trying to do something real. I'm trying to do something original. Can you help me? You have to go directly to the audience, which you've never been able to do. There just needs to be a way that audience can go, you know what? I would watch that. Here's $5. And to me, the only way I found is to get it started is crowdfunding, because that's almost like a startup, like a business startup where you pay for all the stuff you got to do to, you got to have a lawyer make an offer to this actor and do all that. But not all filmmakers are skilled at that. Would David Lynch have been as good if he lived now, but had to have the same financial finesse and the same crowdfunding finesse and the same kind of thing, social media finesse? I don't know. Our tours of film don't necessarily have skill sets in other areas. They usually have people around them that help them. And it's tough. Yeah.
You brought up the thing about, just because you know how to run a projector doesn't mean you know how to make a film. I do feel like it's double-edged sword, the social media we have today, because on the one hand, you're absolutely right. We used to have studios used to reach out to audiences. I mean, I remember Netter and I used to be kind of waylaid in the mall. Hey, come watch these clips from this movie that we're working on and tell us what you think. And we'd see that it was, they had big name stars in it and stuff, and it was a clip, and we'd be like, yeah, this doesn't make any sense to me. This is not catching me at all. Or, yeah. Is this a comedy? Well, we're not supposed to say, but no, it's not supposed to be a comedy. Well, then you're on the wrong track here, my friend. But, stuff like that.
Absolutely.
But the other thing too, is, at the same time, I think a lot, and you see this when you look at social media, the people in our sphere that are doing stuff on YouTube, we all have our opinions as viewers. I don't like this. I do like that. They should do more of this. They should do more of that. But that's like the kernel of popcorn, right?
Yeah.
It takes a whole lot more than that. This is, I could tell, I could come up with what I'd like to see and maybe say to you, Tom, can you make a movie like this?
Right.
And I'll bet you could. You would take that and go, yeah, but you know what we're going to have to do? We're going to have to do this. This is what does the good book say? Many advisors make victory assured. And I'm not talking what you were talking about. A camel is a horse by committee.
No,
I'm not talking about that.
A team. Yeah,
I'm talking about a team where the idea guy says, hey, this would be a great story idea. Well, yes, you're right, but this is how we got to do it. And then then you get the person that knows the lighting, the person that knows the costuming. You put it all together, you could end up with a masterpiece.
That's right.
But that doesn't work when the guy with the purse string says, nope, it's my money and you're going to do it this way.
Exactly. And if someone is guessing what someone would like, but they themselves don't necessarily believe in it or don't necessarily feel passionate about it, but they're like, well, that's what the kids like. That's what they want. Well, that's how you get garbage. And there's always been garbage. Don't get me wrong. There's garbage paintings, music, television shows, everything. There's always been. But the auteur is what we're talking about. We're talking about a singular vision that you have to foster. And social media, for me, the value of social media is in its monopoly. No one wants to be on the third best Facebook. You know what I mean? It's like, so the problem is you have to be monolithic. You have to be X, you have to be Facebook, because that's where everyone is. So the utility of it is that everyone's there and they've monopolized the audience. The flip side of that is there's not another place to go. So you're either big on Google and YouTube, or you're big on Facebook, or big on X, or you don't have anything social media wise, because you can't go, I'm going to go over to Mammoth. It's like, no one's on Mammoth. No one's on this. And so if the utility of these new companies that have never existed before is being a monopoly, because that's where everyone is, and the interaction and the likes and the not likes are what it's worth and what it's for, then the problem becomes, if you only have one or two places to go, isn't it just going to stylistically make everything like one or two types of things that work on those formats?
Yeah, and it's what the true capitalists have said, that you don't want well, I mean, you may want a monopoly for yourself, but the industry doesn't want a monopoly.
Right.
A monopoly is stagnation. You want competition.
You want competition. Yeah. And it invites
that other guy if you make something better than I did, well, then I better do better next time. And I got to do something different. And, maybe I get somebody to help me. Yeah, that guy's too good. I need your help to do something better,
That's right. And see, there isn't another place. Like, if your movie or your podcast isn't on YouTube, it's invisible to most people. If your thing isn't Facebook friendly, it doesn't get seen. If it isn't short and pithy to be on X, then it's done. So they're great, because I wouldn't have found you guys without social media. To me, it's a two-headed serpent. The utility of it is that I could ever meet you and go, God, well, this is the person I'm making these movies for. Like, he digs it. This is encouraging, because in a vacuum, you feel crappy. I'll spend a year of my life working on something, and you usually don't hear how people liked it. But now
True.
people can comment on it and say things or whatever. I don't have to physically go to a screening. But the flip side of it is there's really only 3 or 4 places. I mean, it's like, what's the third best YouTube platform?
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
I can't even think of another one.
Right.
You know, so the gatekeeper is there, and their function is to be a monopoly because you want to reach everybody. So what a weird time we're in that there's only 1 or 2 places to really go if you're an artist wanting to reach people. But then those are the places that tell you really what's acceptable to put up. And I'll give you another example. I don't know if you saw what I've been messing around with, but I tried using AI to do photorealistic animation of the Scrooge comedy that I did.
Yeah, I've seen those. Yeah.
But here's the problem. There's 2 programs that will actually do lip syncing, right?
Yes.
So even lines where there's nothing rude in them, if the thing that you're putting it in, you take the file of the dialogue and you put it on lip sync to the image or video that you have, well, the program will go, there is some sensitive material. Please edit and do with it. It won't lip sync to a line, and you cannot protest it. You can't refute it. You can't ask for them to review it. There's no one to talk to. It just won't let you do it. And then I've actually removed like words. I'm like, does it think prison is something else? Let me just put in prick, you know, and I've done the edit and I've never gotten it to go. So I gave up on some of the lines because you can't do edgy comedy. You can't insult anyone. You can't suggest violence. So I'm like, without the violence, the comedy, I think that's no fun. You can't do a comedy. So
and freedom that an independent would have. And you know who you might want to reach out to? Reach out to Culture Casino. Because he knows how to, or at least I think he knows how to take those large language models, pull them down into your own system, and do them privately. So maybe talk to him about that.
Well, that's kind of cool.
I wanted to encourage you on something, Tom, something that you were getting at before about, you know, we live in an age where you would never have known otherwise, you know, who's out there loving what you're doing. You've watched some Doctor Who, right?
I grew up watching Doctor Who. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, even the 2005, 6.
Oh yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah. So I don't watch it anymore, but I watched the David Tennant, and yeah.
Oh, great. So there was an episode called Vincent and the Doctor. Do you remember that one?
The Vincent Van Gogh one.
Vincent Van Gogh.
Yeah, that was beautifully written. Yeah.
And there's the ending of that leaves me in tears every single time.
Oh, I don't blame you.
The Doctor goes back in time and takes Vincent Van Gogh and brings him forward.
Yeah.
So that he could be like a fly on the wall listening to
the museum curator.
Yeah, I'm forgetting the actor's name. He's I've seen him in so many things, talking about him. And he's in tears. Hearing somebody talk about his work. This is something that historical artists never would know how much they would be appreciated hundreds of years later. That is
a great point. None of us make anything to hide it in the closet or hang it in the closet. You really do. You put it out there and you're vulnerable. You're like, I just did this 20,000 Leagues adaptation and I was like, I think it's good. I don't know if anybody else will think it's good. And you put it out there. Yeah.
You live in a time when you actually can get at least some of that feedback. You reach people that you don't realize. And not only do you reach people that you wouldn't otherwise without the internet, but they can tell you real time, oh my God, I love this thing that you did.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, if nothing else, you get that little thumbs up, right? You get the thumbs up.
And I think that's a beautiful thing. And I don't for a minute not appreciate the kind of access that you have. I guess my point though was, you know, if it were the 60s and 70s and I still had this same aesthetic, I think I would be a lot farther along. And I think I would have my dream, which my dream is to have an idea on Monday and be able to start implementing it on Friday. Yeah. And I saw, you know, the Offer. Did you ever see that? The making of the Godfather films?
No, but I've had like 25 people recommend it to me.
It's so accurate. Take it from me. I lived it. But the difference was back then, they'd be like, all right, you know, I got $10 million. Get on a plane, go talk to them and see if you can get. You could have an idea And indie cinema was just kind of taking off, and the studios were like, let's take a chance on Easy Rider and it's big and do this.
Yeah.
And I think a guy like me would have done much better in that environment, because if I had been able to get in front of the people that say yes, then I could have proven through my work, and I wouldn't be reinventing the wheel every single time I'm trying to do it, because it would be like, oh, okay, track record. You know, he's got the Tom Conkle style and he's got his story. The problem with being today is they're not looking for the Tom Conkle style. They're looking for someone that can execute a franchise, or they're looking for someone that can reboot, or they're looking for someone that on paper makes sense for what they're doing. And occasionally something brilliant gets through. Denis has the power to do something as big as Dune. He has this love of science fiction, and you can tell his movies. But let's be honest, he started doing indie stuff. Even Sicario was a little scrappy film. Mm-hmm. He had to prove himself in there, but he did that through financing from Canada and had that support. And if you don't have that, like one of the reasons England flourished is for a while, that film program in the 70s and 80s, you had Ridley Scott and Tony Scott. You had all these different people that grew out of the British film system, where they could go and get indie money and make The Duelist, or make these things. And yes, they moved into Hollywood style films, which I would love to do. But the problem is you have to have an incubator to have an auteur.
Yeah, and I just saw the last comment by Darkwoods Presents. They aren't looking outside who they've already got. I would go farther than that. I would say that is true. But when they do look outside of that, they're just looking for Joe Nobody that will do what they tell them to do.
Right.
And what good is that?
Right. And they're looking for somebody that's already in the system. For example, my film, if it had been the 50s and my film came out in the 50s, I'd be working a ton, because they're like, oh, he made a feature and it was comprehensible. It was reasonably watchable. Let's let Tom make another movie. But because I had to do it indie, I had to do it outside the system, there's he's not one of us kind of thing. And until you make something that's a huge runaway hit and they come to you, that's the system as it is now, is you have to please companies, not people. You're not talking to people. You're talking to boards.
You said something that I don't know if you even realize how poignant it was. There was a time when you had people that had the money, that knew how to make money, that if they wanted to make more money, they knew that it was all gambling. It was all gambling. And how do you make the most money gambling? You take the chance. If you play the even odds, you never really make the money.
That's right.
You get by maybe. But no, it's like Mr. Miyagi said, you walk on left side of road, safe. You walk on right side of road, safe. Walk in middle, sooner or later, like a grape. You gotta be willing to take the stand and say, I'm gonna go off road. Heck, I'm not gonna left side, right side, middle of the road. I'm going completely off the road over those damn mountains over there.
Yes, I think you're right. Somebody that comes to mind that is doing it, I was just thinking, Panos Cosmatos.
I was going to bring him up. Yeah.
There you go.
Wow, that's funny. Yeah. Yeah, because he did Beyond the Black Rainbow and Mandy, and
love Mandy.
He has a great sort of voice, but look, see, he's outside the system. He's found a distributor. Hopefully he's found some money that he can go and do it. But every film he does is a struggle, because you're not doing something that you're being told to do. You're doing something that you want to do, and that's a huge difference. Most people are doing things they've been told to do, not necessarily what they want to do. But he's made 2 films. He came up in my mind, and that's funny. The comment came up, but I feel like the next bunch of auteurs are going to figure out, and this could happen. We figure out a way that we can go to a pool of investors or a pool of people and say, look, access to audience, that's not the problem. But the problem is that the average person does not have the kind of purse strings that's going to make the thing they want to watch. So we can make things for a very reasonable, what I would call like a smart budget, where it's like, Don't be crazy. You don't need, huge stars and everything or whatever. Just make a good story well told, and people will resonate with it. We need you to believe in it to the degree that you're going to make more money than if you left it in the bank. But yes, it's a risk. And that's the game. You have to go, I will do my absolute best to make my responsibility is to get you your money back. But if you're willing to roll the dice on this, we could do something original that will be the next thing. Instead of following a trend, we could set a trend. And there haven't been many trend-setting movies coming out. Even the good ones right now. I mean, Dune is still based on the book, and it's got its own built-in thing. There hasn't been a world-building franchise or even a series of films where you go, oh, wow, that's great. Where it just came out of nowhere that someone thought of it. I have trouble thinking of ones that are big movies. The underpinnings are always, comic books that already existed, or a book, or video games, or whatever. And most of those have been wildly unsuccessful. In Borderlands and all these ones, it's like, why did you make a film out of it? Oh, you mistakenly thought because a lot of people like to play this video game that somehow they'd want to see a story that you came up with based on it. And that's just not true, because no one wanted to see that. And I'll bet no one involved in the Borderlands game got a chance to even write the script.
That is the problem. We're and I've seen some of the comments here have kind of alluded to this too. I just saw a video about Jack Kirby, right? Jack Kirby was arguably, he was Marvel. He was the one who created the worlds that people loved to read stories in. And other people, I'm not going to say any names, decided to capitalize on that and claim it as their own. And how much of what we're seeing now is exactly that? Right. I'm sorry, Kevin Feige didn't create a single thing in the Marvel universe. It was Jack Kirby, and he's literally aping it, and he's doing it badly. Right? Kathleen Kennedy did not create Star Wars. She looked at Star Wars and kind of tried to ape it and throw in.
I get the feeling she hadn't seen it since it opened with George. I have a feeling she's not a fan. Yeah.
Even if she did see it, she sure as heck didn't understand it.
No.
She never saw it.
Well, yeah, good point. Well, she missed it because she was out getting coffee, but not even for herself, right? Yeah. But the real problem is, and we're seeing it time and time and time again. I made Star Trek. I made Star Wars. No, you didn't.
No,
you didn't. Why? Well, I don't want to be bound by all that canon. Fine. That's fine. I respect that. Then don't make Star Trek and Star Wars and all those things. Go make your own damn thing. And then you're not bound by canon.
Right. And create an atmosphere where someone has that idea. They can do it. Yeah.
Robert Eggers.
Yeah, from A24, he did Hereditary and with deleted scenes was mentioning him earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. He has a vision. He has a singular vision. I know he likes period pieces. I know he has this very distinctive Gothic style. He is an auteur, and he's lucky that he's working in that.
I'm sorry, wrong movies. I meant The Lighthouse and Nosferatu. I got confused with the. Okay.
Yeah. I liked The Northman. I thought it was an interesting film. I liked it actually better than Nosferatu, to be honest.
So did I.
Yeah, but at least we have somebody who, right or wrong, got to make the movie he wanted to make. And even when he shot in black and white, he got pushback, and he was like, "No, I'm going to do it." Good luck. And we need more people like that. If we support people like that and go and vote with our wallets, you'll get better stories, or you'll get at least stories that aren't stuff you've seen before. And I think if we want auteurs, we have to create a dialogue between the people that will appreciate it and the auteur. You need to feel safe to go, well, I really want to do this. Is anybody going to see this? And by the same token, you put out something original, you want people to show up and vote with their wallet and go, you know what, that was pretty good. Like, let's give this person another chance. And right now that money path is real muddy, because you're not, as a filmmaker, one of the reasons I didn't put any of my stuff on Netflix is For indie stuff, all their stuff is pretty much studio or their own. For indie stuff, they want to tie it up exclusively for years, but also they don't pay until the end of the run. So you're basically giving them film for 3 to 5 years, and you don't get paid. And then you'll get paid at the end of the run. They'll go, okay, this is what the license was. Here's your $10,000 or here's your $20,000. So you gave them a loan for 3 to 5 years of your movie, and you couldn't show it anywhere else.
Interest-free loan.
Interest-free loan and exclusive. Yeah. So see, you can't show it somewhere else.
This is what makes me angry about the way they're doing business. Not the way business should work, but the way they're doing business.
Right.
If we have an agreement, and you're going to pay me the same either way, then just give me my damn money now. Right. If our deal is, well, we'll give you this much, but we'll also give you this much percentage depending on how well it does. Okay, fine. Then I understand. I got to wait and see how it does. That is a little bit of a gamble, right?
It's a gamble for everybody, but you could do, you're right, phenomenally better too. You could go, hey, who knew everybody would love this? It blew up, But you're right.
But the other side of it is if you're gonna give me, well, this is your license fee, well, then you're the one making the gamble. Give me the money now. Right. And you're making the gamble that this is going to do well and you're going to make more money later on because you paid this much up front. That's right. I don't know.
And a big studio twists arms and goes, yeah, if you want these 40 titles from us, you got to pay a license up front, Netflix. But to an indie who really needs the money, they're like, yeah, we'll take it. So fostering these original ideas are impossible, but reprocessing the same stuff or doing red notice or something, well, that's just, it's flowing. And again, you're not going to get an auteur out of that. My first statement stands. Who are the great new people that grew out of the streaming system? Who are the great Tubi directors? Who are the great directors from Hulu?
Well, who is the great dancer who did beautiful dance with their hands and feet shackled, a bag over their head, and dumped in the water? That's kind of what we're talking about here, because that's how I feel trying to make stuff on YouTube. It's like, just let me do my thing and build my audience. And if I do good, you make money too off the ad revenue. Sure. But no, you're constantly saying, if I use this no word and that no word, and if I talk on this subject and that subject, we're going to bury you. Well, then where's my incentive to even be on your platform then?
That's right. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, try getting Dr. Strangelove made today. It's a very different setup. And until we can break it, it'll be difficult for an auteur to emerge, because a singular vision is the antithesis of making product.
Yeah.
Because that's marketing dictating what you make, instead of going, I made this great thing. How do I market it? It's a very different way of looking at it. Go, hey, Tom made this really cool film. Let's figure out how to market it. That's not how it works. In most cases, it's we've done marketing and this is what sells. So we want you to make this. And the problem is it comes in 6 months too late. It's like the new Minecraft movie coming out. It was like, Minecraft's big with the kids. Now we'll develop it for 5 years, and then Jack Black, kids liked him, and then you get a movie that pleases no one. That's too late. And it's like, Minecraft isn't a narrative story. There's there.
Kind of hysterical about this. It's like you're sitting here going, no, you don't even understand why it's successful. If you don't understand why it's successful, you can't just say, well, then do this. It's like, hey, people like cookies. Let's make burgers like that. No, they're different things. They don't work that way.
Now I imagine Burger King making a cookie bun for a burger. I can see them doing that.
Look, I mean, if you understand how these things work, you can, because you're right. I've seen dessert cookie cakes or whatever, where it's a cookie on top and bottom and it's got stuff, and it's like a burger, but you're not eating that as your main, dish, your lunch. That's your dessert or your treat. It's people just you guys get it.
No, I totally get it. I'm in the trenches right now, and I wanted to offer that perspective to everyone because, you know, we are genuinely trying to make things, and I'm not even in the league of Lynch yet. You know, for me, the process of we're all aspiring filmmakers, in that it's like pursuing telling a great story is better for me than even just mastery of lenses and what you do. It's that every film that I'm trying to make is me learning and trying to do something that I wanted to see and not being entirely sure how to pull it off. But you in that adversity, you find like, oh man, let's do this shot. And I can only see it from this angle. Like the best movies, you can only see that it would be shot from that angle. It's not covered from every direction. It's like, no, it had to be that. It had to be their face here in that scene to make it work. That and an auteur working at the height of their power has the ability to do that beautiful thing. And the way the audience applauds for it is by buying it. You know, you give us the money. We're not doing it just to like whatever, do it. You're doing it because you really want to make someone happy, or you make them think, or both, or whatever. It's the whole engine, you know, that like I get a thrill listening to it when I'm with somebody else, because it's like I never saw it before. I'm watching it through their eyes, or I'll play something that I just created, but I'll play it for somebody else and I re-enjoy it because it's like I made it for them. You know, you want them to kind of agree and go, yeah, I like that. You know, it was good. It's worth the, 80 hours a week you spent making this. And you don't get that kind of feedback except now through social media and things, because even film festivals, I enter and they're all online. Like I never meet the audience.
Yeah. You said something very poignant that speaks directly to the point of the main topic tonight. When we asked the question, who is the next David Lynch? And we had some people in the chat before we started saying there will never be another David Lynch. Yes, that's true. There will never be another David Lynch.
Right.
But what do you mean when you say who is the next David Lynch? You said you're not in that league or caliber. No, of course not. The next David Lynch isn't already David Lynch. The next David Lynch is the person that's in the position you're in, that is doing what David Lynch did back in the day, that has that vision. You know,
that has a resource. Yeah.
Right. Everyone who says who's going to be the next I don't know, Indiana Jones or Superman or whatever. Well, who was the Superman? The greatest Superman was Christopher Reeve. And if you would have asked back then, they were looking at people like Robert Redford and Paul Newman.
That's right. And who was Christopher Reeve?
Was no one. He was no one. Nobody knew who he was, but he was the next Superman because he was the right thing. You know, the next Indiana Jones. Who knew who Harrison Ford was before he did Indiana Jones and Han Solo? He was a carpenter.
And you know who took a chance on him was someone like George Lucas, who was outside the system to begin with. Nobody in the movie system would have given Harrison Ford a shot. In fact, they didn't give him a shot. He tried to act all through the 60s, and he had to do carpentry because everyone's like, you don't have it to be a leading man, you know? Yeah. You had to have somebody who goes, you know what, I'm going to take a chance here. That's the thing I love. And actually, the reason Island in the Stars, I think, could work too, is it's the same kind of, I call it value engineering of the talent. He got, good actors, but he got two kind of linchpin people. He's like Alec Guinness, Peter Cushing, names you'd heard of, really solid British actors. And then he hung the rest of it around people that he just said, this will be great for the character. It wasn't somebody that was already on a series or already had all this baggage. He just made the film he wanted to make. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to hang it out there. The three leads really hadn't been in anything. And when with a film like what I'm doing the same thing. There'll be a linchpin kind of character where you're like, yeah, okay, this guy's great. Or I know her, from this thing. But the rest can be unknowns or relative unknowns, but they're good actors that can pull off this film and the story. And not one person will be like, oh, I would have loved this. It's just too bad it's not Dustin Hoffman. That you just don't have that conversation. If it's any good, you don't care. There was always a first thing. I mean, the first time we saw Richard Dreyfuss or something in American Graffiti, it's like, you didn't go, oh, why didn't they use the guy from this television show? You just
Right.
went with Richard Dreyfuss.
I mean, I guess there is something to be said for, I've heard this many times. We need someone like so-and-so. Well, have you asked so-and-so?
Yeah.
If he's the one you're looking for, then go after him.
Right.
If not, then you want someone who is that character. And then you shouldn't be thinking of a particular actor. You should be doing a roll call.
Right.
For the unknown who will be your canvas for that painting you're trying to paint.
That's right. Yeah, it needs to be a balance. You want skilled people that can do the job, and by nature, they're going to become known as their characters if they do a good job. But you're right. By the same token, you can't just go, well, if I front load this with a whole bunch of star names, it's going to be good. It sometimes works. Like Nolan is really good at bringing in big names and keeping them all on the same page, like Michael Caine, Morgan Freeman, Rutger Hauer. Yeah. But again, he's an auteur. He's not doing movies that some company's telling him to do. He's doing, I'd like to see Memento, and he makes it.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. It's that mentality. The vast majority of movies aren't made that way, but we remember the ones that we like because they are made that way. They're made by somebody who has a singular vision, and they get everybody to kind of march in the same direction. And if somebody agrees with you and you make enough money, you get to make another one.
I feel like the other side of that for actors is, and you hear this from the big names so often. Yeah. I got typecasted because they only saw me as this. And we've seen this with a lot of actors who, we're used to see them in the goofy comedies, and then they play a villain or something, and you go, wow.
Yeah.
This guy's really good. And then you can see him in other roles, and then he starts getting other roles. And I think a lot of actors like that aren't, that don't have their heads up their backsides, are willing to take the direction and go, who is this character? Yeah. Okay, I'll pour myself into this character and I'll be that character. Because I'm not here to be me. I'm here to be that character. Now,
that's right.
We also know some big actors that can only play one role.
Oh yeah, and to their credit, like the ones that are good that play one role, they're really good at doing X. Like that's their thing, and we love them for that. But you're right; it's always interesting to see a movie like Collateral, where all of a sudden Tom Cruise plays against himself and plays the villain, and this intense thing. But he brings the physicality. He's still this guy. But it's for an entirely different reason in the film. Yeah. And I wish there was more chances to take that you could do that. But the problem is on that level now, those movies cost so much that you can't take that risk.
Right.
Unless you're like a Nolan or something, you're not going to take those risks. So I think at the end of the day, there's going to have to be some kind of a reckoning between the audience and those of us that want to make this stuff, the new stuff, or the auteur stuff. And we're going to have to be able to have more of a direct, it needs to be a creator economy and an audience economy and not the gatekeeper. Does that make sense?
Exactly. And that's why I loved, the way you went about Island in the Stars. It seems like it's such a long, hard slog to do it this way, but how else are you going to do it?
It is the only way. Like every studio said, it's great, but it's too original, or it's not something we would do. It's not based on an existing IP. I think Legendary said that. Oh, it's not an existing IP. I'm like, exactly. And the worst question I get asked is, what are the comps? You know what comps are? Comps are the comparables. So they're like, what's it like? And I'm like, well, I can honestly tell you, I'd have to go back to Fifth Element before you had space. Oh, yeah, that's too long ago. Is it like anything that's out now? No. Oh. And I'm like, no, that's a good thing.
That really, that is a good thing. Look at all the Star Wars derivatives that came out that we look back at and say, that's crap.
Yeah, what the heck?
Star Wars. Why were you trying to ape Star Wars?
Yeah, it's like Star Crash and all these horrible movies that came out, and I always kind of I wince when because when you have to do these things called pitch decks when I'm pitching the film, and they're like, "What are your comps? Let's see your comps," and I'm like, God, what is it like? Maze Runner? No, I'm trying to think of comparables, but isn't that exactly the thing that you would want? You would want to see, well, your team can make a movie, your team has a good story, and this is the workflow and this is where the money goes. That should be what's important. But the first thing, well, what's it like? And you're like, nothing. Well, it's not like anything that's already out. I mean, how's anybody going to see it? And I was like, everything that was good was not out before it was out.
Yeah.
But that's how movies get pitched. That's how we have to pitch.
I cannot even understand
Yeah.
that kind of myopathy. It's like, it's not like anything, because if it was like something, they'd go see that thing and not this thing.
That's right. It's on your shelf right now. I always laugh when they're like, we're going to redo The Thing. And I'm like, you mean the thing that I have on my shelf right there? We can make that for 3 times the money. And
yeah, exactly.
And that is how, though, I think now as an audience member, you'll get some insight, is that here I'm pitching Island in the Stars, which is a Treasure Island style sci-fi adventure, steampunk swashbuckling adventure about a woman who's mentored by these older wise men who are in the military, and it's like a naval nautical adventure they go on and a quest. And like, well, what's it like? What movie is like that out in 2024? Nothing. Yeah. So my comps have to go way back, and I'm like, well, there's literature. Forget literature. Okay, well, there's the 70s, and then there's there's books, but when you look at it, it's like, well, shouldn't that be the first thing you go? Oh yeah, there's nothing like that. Maybe we should try it. But that is the opposite reaction you get.
Or even it is enough like those classic pieces of literature, those classic stories. And hey, we haven't done that in a while. Maybe we should,
exactly. Everything old is new again. Like, hey, we haven't done that kind of thing in 30 years. Maybe we should. Well, I don't want to take a chance on that. Do you have anything like a Marvel movie? And meanwhile,
well, if you don't want to take a chance, take your money and put it in the bank. That's what you do,
exactly, and only earn 2%, 4%.
Yeah,
exactly. And our ROI is like 20%. So if you put the money in and you make a reasonably well-fashioned film and you have a way of releasing it, you'll get your money back. You'll get that 20%, and then you get to make another movie. I'm not trying to make it'd be nice, but $500 million on some film. I'd be happy to make 30. 40 million. And because then I would go, wow, I could make 3 really good movies with that.
Exactly.
It costs nothing to have a good idea. It costs nothing to have a good performance.
Right.
It's just people want to mitigate risk by having all these other factors, like comparables, like all these other things, which by nature become a self-selecting problem. If you're an auteur, all of my movies aren't like something. I have this other movie called Test Drive. I'd have to go back to Duel. I'd have to go back to Duel and Speed to even get close to what it is. Yeah. So when you bring up those, they gloss over like, that was before I was born. And
yeah,
I once told an executive,
all the crap you're remaking too.
Yeah, I told one guy, he was probably in his early 20s, and he was a VP of development. And he goes, it's like The Godfather. And that was before I was born. I go, everything was before you were born.
Yes.
Like literally all of human history. But they dismissed it out of hand. Like, that's not recent. It's like, it's that thing of, remember in Blockbuster, it used to be not how good a movie was, it was how new it was. There was a new release. Yeah. And I'll never forget this. An old lady came up to me in Blockbuster, and she was holding Spartacus with Kirk Douglas and some kind of, Goosebumps or what, like some modern movie that was like 2 or 3 years old. She goes, which one of these is newer? And I went, Spartacus. That's pretty new. And she, okay, I'll get Spartacus. And I was like, wait, the only thing that was important is how new it was. Hey, this Beethoven piece is really new. I think I'll listen to it.
Well, no, I mean, that's like, there was actually a How I Met Your Mother bit where Barney's, newer is always better. Oh yeah? What about wine? Yeah, newer is always better. And he's got to drink the new cheap icky. Oh yeah, this is better because it's newer. It's like,
Oh yeah, I know, but literally Spartacus and some like lightweight thing, like, well, which of these is newer? And I had to lie. I was like, Spartacus, definitely Kubrick Spartacus. But then I went, okay, so that's the mentality. A lot of executives who rise to their level of incompetence. Yeah. When they've reached that thing of not knowing, it's like, okay, I came up through the marketing thing, got this guy Tom with some crazy ideas. Like, I haven't heard of any of these ideas before. That's bad. So you wonder why there's a lot of crap out there. I'll tell you, I've been living it as to how frustrating it is. And some of my friends, that have made Marvel movies and things, they eventually kind of hoped that it will lead to auteurism or whatever. But unfortunately, you also get trapped, as you were talking about typecasting an actor. Right. You get typecast as a director, and you're like, he makes these kind of movies. And you make this kind of movie, and then it's very, very hard for them to break out of it as well. The only difference is at least they have the resources and a track record that they can show they did it. A really smart auteur might go in and do one, like Lynch did Elephant Man, which is a very mainstream, interesting movie, and it definitely had his own imprint on it and black and white, interesting stuff. But it was a very commercial and well-constructed film with a great cast that gave him the freedom to be an auteur then. And so I'm willing to make that concede. I want to make mainstream genre movies. I'm not kind of in the rare air of cowboys eating pudding movies being the only thing I want to make. Right. But by the same token, I don't want to make the same movies over and over again, if that makes sense. Where I don't just want to see, well, let's reboot this and make an almost as good version. That doesn't excite me, and it's so much work that I don't know that I'd want to do it. It has to be something that really catches me.
Once you make Elephant Man, don't let them force you to make Elephant Man 2: The Revenge or something.
Exactly. Or can you imagine if poor Spielberg got, he had to make 5 Jaws movies. He wouldn't have made all the great films that he made in the 70s. He would have been busy making Jaws movies. So
let someone else make those.
Someone else did. We know how that turned out. But it does have to grab you. Like, even with the older properties, I find myself gravitating to something like Jules Verne's 20,000 Leagues. There's a great Disney movie from the 50s. So I went, it's brilliant. And not on disc. I can't find it anywhere. There's an anniversary version, but it's like $100 now. It's out of print. It's very expensive. But I said to myself, do I have anything new to say about it? And I thought, well, at the end of the day, Nemo's an environmentalist who kills people because he loves the planet. And I thought, maybe there's a fever dream character study I can make out of it. What if I made it sound like a movie for your ears? And so that was my entry point into why I should tell this story. But it wasn't a rehash, and it was in a very different format, being an audio-only format. And I think that's okay, because I learned so much by doing it that it'll make my movies better because I understand sound better. But I feel like that chance taking, that can't happen in a business setting, because they're like, well, what's the absolute proof on that? We looked at the metrics. That book's old, and so when you're an auteur, it's what catches your fancy, and you hope people agree with you. But also, you can't see anything else but the way you want to tell it. So it just sounds odd to hear other people like, here's how I'd fix that. And I'm like, what? It's like, that's your movie. Now you're making your movie in your head. I'd much rather someone go, I didn't like it, and I didn't like this or that, but don't tell me how to fix it, because now you're making your movie. You're making it your, well, I'd have her do this. I'm like, great. You go make that, and you have her do that. But if you tell me, Tom, it's not clear, the dialogue's not good here, or not understanding it, then I go, oh, okay, I'm not in service of the story, and I'm not pleasing the audience. I'll change it to the way I think it should be clearer. And that is not a way that current business, especially tech companies, don't work that way. They work on algorithms. It's like, well, our algorithm shows that people are watching X, Y, and Z, so you need to do X, Y, and Z. It's like, but who started the algorithm? Like, what was the movie that was the beginning before there was an algorithm for you to follow? you know, and
it's the correlation. It's the correlation problem, right? It's people are going to see these movies, and so you need to make these movies. But do you know why they're going to see those movies?
They don't.
What is it about those movies they're going to see? You know, it's like I said years ago, before we understood how malaria was spread. There was a correlation that people at certain altitudes were not contracting malaria, so they thought if we take people above the timberline, their malaria will get better, and it didn't. They had malaria, and they didn't realize until later, malaria is spread by mosquitoes, and mosquitoes can't get above the timberline. That bit from Star Trek 3, you know, well, couldn't we play back whale song to these aliens? If we did, we'd just be responding in gibberish.
Right. It wouldn't mean anything. Yeah.
It wouldn't mean anything. And it's the same thing you're talking about here. It's like, no, you can't just, you know, keep putting out, you know, schlocky impressions of Star Wars and expect to make Star Wars money. You got to go back and say, what was it people loved about Star Wars? It wasn't the lightsabers and the Force. It was the hero's journey.
Right.
You know?
Exactly. It was something that resonated, a farm boy facing impossible odds, being on this journey where he rejects it and then goes, you know what? It's a slow drip, but I'm bleeding. I'm going to go do something. And we all felt that rush with him, and it happened to be wrapped around this really cool world, but that was George Lucas's world, and he had an incredible team around him that helped create that, and he had people pushing back like Gary Kurtz and stuff going, George, that doesn't work. Or Harrison at that time was like, hey, you can type this, but I can't say this line. Can I say it this way? And George, to his credit, which he doesn't get enough of, went, you know what, you're right, you say it. And he's like, all right, everything's fine here. How are you? You know, and shoots the thing. George knew to go, that's the take I'm going to use. So his genius was that. When he got so big that no one would question him, I think the work got less interesting. Because everyone, like, wouldn't it be great if he had scrappy people that didn't think he knew what he was doing working on his most recent film? Because then it would have been like, I don't think this line works. I'm going to try it this way, or I'm going to do this. It probably would have been better. And George, to his credit, probably would have gone back into old George mode. Like, one of the best things that ever happened in American Graffiti is because it was cold and nighttime, George would fall asleep during the takes. And so what would happen would be Ron Howard and all these great actors would know their characters. George would create a great scene, and then they would build on it. And then when there was no cut, they would add lines that ended up in the movie because it was real. And he wasn't so successful. Wake up, George, because we need to know every thought. You know, they just let him sleep. Ron's on a roll. You know, and we all love that movie because it seems so real, and we've all been a teenager feeling like that. And to me, it's a feeling. Yeah.
When you go back to those prequels, right? Those are the ones that the old fans like, oh, that's where he lost it. And like, kind of like you said, you know, nobody pushed back. So it's pure Lucas. And I get that as someone who grew up, you know, reading the Bantha Tracks magazine, you know, as a kid, and, you know, the fan club and all that kind of stuff. I knew that George had already thought this world out. He had the 9 films thought out in his head. And so when I go and I watch those prequels, there are elements that I see that he had already planned that made it in. That's the good Star Wars George Lucas stuff. But some of the character development and dialogue that maybe could have used a little bit of help with, that kind of hurt it.
That's the thing though. George is immensely talented, but he needed Marsha Lucas, and he needed Gary Kurtz, and he needed Harrison Ford pointing out stuff to make him better. No one wanted to be in a bad movie, you know. Or when he sat down with his buddies and showed it. I'm trying to remember the director of the first Mission Impossible. His name's just gone out of my head. The first one,
Brian De Palma.
De Palma goes, George, you need an opening credit sequence. You need something to explain and set it up. Make it like a serial where you explain where it's left off. Having your buddies see you as an equal and do that means everything. I have a group of guys that I'll show my stuff to, and I'll be like, Dave, rip this apart, you know, or tell me what you think of this. Never take advice from somebody that you wouldn't look to be inspired or to follow and do what they're doing. So you go to somebody there's this pool of people. It's like, oh, let me ask Bob Zemeckis. Let me ask this guy. You've got to surround yourself with people like that you respect, that you would take advice from, and then you make your thing better. Because at the end of the day, you're still the author of the film, and your genius is like, well, I knew to chip that off, and I knew to take this, and I knew to take this away. Nobody's going to go, well, now, did you make that one edit, or did a friend of yours suggest that? That doesn't happen. Right. All we care about as the audience is like, is this any good? Do you make me feel anything? Do I want to live there? Do I want to be these people? And if they do, that's what the magic of film was. And we've kind of lost the magic of film because now we're seeing how it's the seams. We're seeing how it's manufactured. We're becoming jaded to the whole process because we're not surprised by anything anymore.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. Yeah, so I guess bringing it back to our original point, that's where the next David Lynch is going to come from. I think that, the next David Lynch, it's an impossible question to answer because we haven't met him yet. There's a lot of candidates. We need to give them the chance.
Yeah, the next David Lynch is out there knocking on the door, trying to crowdfund.
Yeah.
And trying to get his stuff out. And I'll tell you something.
I've been dropping the link for Island in the Stars.
I appreciate that. I truly do. If you please take a look at it, anybody that's watching it. If you think there's any merit in it or you think you might want to see it, we're going to make this thing. We just need the resources to keep going because we don't have some big company bankrolling this thing. This is being made because we actually want to see it. And I truly believe that the 14-year-old me would just go bananas. They saw this film because this film is the basket that I put everything that I love about adventure movies and space operas. It's all in that basket. I just need the resources to kind of realize it and bring together the team that I know can do it. So crowdfunding and that kind of thing is really the only lifeline that you have in order for someone to take you seriously. Like you got to hire an entertainment lawyer. You can't just like start sending scripts to people without it being represented. You have to have that infrastructure. So we're out here, but our voices are drowned in all the things that are screaming for your attention and all the companies that are monolithic that decide they're the tastemaker or they're the gatekeeper. Mm-hmm. If you want us to be auteurs, we have to find a way where we can go directly to you and you can go, I like this, do more. You can't quantify art. You can't quantify it. You can't put it in a box. You can't have a formula. You can't have something. That's not why we like art. We like art because we walk in somewhere and you're surprised by, I didn't even know I'd like this. How many of you have gone to something, you're like, I didn't even know I'd like that. Like the first time I walk into this thing and then I didn't know it was going to be good. Like now I've got this new thing to be excited about. That is the reason we make stuff.
It's interesting you bring that up because I used to listen to a podcast called Wiretap with Jonathan Goldstein. It's a very funny Canadian podcast, but he made a point that one time he was sitting in a theater watching a movie called Blue Velvet, and he saw people getting up and leaving, but he didn't understand at the time when he was a young man, but that was when he was actually developing his own artistic taste and taste in movies when he was watching David Lynch's Blue Velvet. So
exactly. Yeah. That's a great point. Yeah. You're surprising yourself and broadening your palette of what resonates in your life. And when you're like, you know what? I didn't know I'd like this, but I do. And I don't know why. And it's unsettling and it makes me happy, and to me, that's that little magic feeling we rarely get. But when we do see it, we know it almost in like on a primal level. There's something to it where I've run into certain things and it's like this rush that you get when you're, okay, I get it. And everything's happening in an unexpected way, but it seems inevitable. It's like, well, the ending is surprising, but no, it makes sense. It's inevitable. And I'm always chasing that and looking for that feeling, that fix again to create something where you make people walk out, you feel like you've lived it, or for a minute you feel like Indiana Jones, and you're walking out of that theater and you're like, I forgot about my problems. I forgot about my life for a minute, and I was there. I was living it, and I learned something. Like it's about, like the reason Wrath of Khan is good is not just because it's Star Trek. It's because it's about life. It's about, well, I'm 40 years old. Am I still relevant? Like male friendship. My God, try and make a movie about male friendship. It's about Spock and Kirk being friends. And being men and masculine men that are friends. And it's about middle age and finding yourself and life. It even states the premise at the beginning. It's like we find life from lifelessness. They're not talking about Genesis. They're talking about your life. Find life from lifelessness is about you. Find your vision. Find your voice. We're just here for a little bit of time. What are you going to do with it? That's what Wrath of Khan's about. It's about revenge. He's eating poison, hoping someone else's die. Someone else will die. And Khan is consumed by it. Well, guess what that is? That's Moby Dick. So the comp for it is Moby Dick. Screw you. Moby Dick is old. It's like that's why it's good. Is that he did his homework. He learned Star Trek. And then he made that movie, and it's about something. You're like, you can dismiss it. It's Star Trek. It's not. No. It's about male friendship. It's about life and revenge and regret. He didn't get to meet his son. He has a guy out there who hates him. All these kind of things, and we identify with it. That movie gets better and better as you get older because you go, yeah, I was driving home from my job, and I feel exactly like that. Have I outlived my usefulness? And that's why it's a good movie. All genres can be like that. It doesn't matter if it's a horror movie or science fiction or anything. If they're about something, it's timeless.
Exactly right.
Thanks for having me on. I'm sorry to monopolize everything. I just wanted to.
Honestly, I can't imagine how we would have had a better discussion without. Well, look, how are we going to talk about directing if we don't have a director?
That's what I was like. You know what? I'll pop in and say hi, and I appreciate your support and Netter support and Deleted and Aged. I enjoy your conversations and I try and listen in when I can, and I am literally cutting something right now on my edit bay, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed on this actor offer because that would unlock this next film.
And as soon as you have a Thursday or a Friday evening open, you let us know. We'll get you back on. We'll or talk to Deleted about his Sunday show, and we'll get you on, and we'll give everybody an update on Island in the Stars. Get everybody fired up, and maybe get a few more ching-chings in the
it would be helpful because one of the phases we're in right now is when you make an offer, they usually come back and want a percentage of their salary and they want to negotiate it. So that's where someone like a filmmaker like me, I'm spending capital in order to engage somebody to negotiate that on my behalf, sign contracts and do things, and that can be a real money suck if you don't have deep pockets. So the crowdfunding is important now because we're in that phase of, we're not developing it. We're not trying to figure out what we are. We're in that admin, spend money, build the cash register mode right now. And so anyone that wants to kind of jump in and take a look at the perks or whatever, it is helpful because all of that, it's investing in a startup that's now going. We've got a product and now we're trying to take it to market. And, that's when you're spending your money. You know that.
Yeah, exactly.
And the other thing I wanted to mention is, Vernon's home burned down. I don't know if you've heard. Yeah. And he is struggling. He's 78, and so he's going to have to start from zero. They left with the shirts on their back. They didn't give him enough notice to get out of there. So he's starting over out here. So, keep him in your thoughts. And I believe he set up a GoFundMe to try and they're going through the FEMA.
Is that the platform it's on, GoFundMe?
I believe so. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Hang on. Can I put it in the private chat? Okay.
Yeah, if you do, we'll
if anyone wants to, this isn't for a movie or anything. This is literally, he needs to buy clothes. He needs to get back on his feet. I don't know if you heard, but a lot of insurance companies pulled out of the Palisades right before the fire.
Yeah.
So some people are not getting their insurance.
I got
on the
it.
house. After paying insurance for 50 years, they can just go, we're not going to cover you anymore. So he's going through that struggle right now, and I would like nothing better than to say, forget it. We're going to Australia. Let's make this movie. But that's just the reality of things right now. So I just wanted to mention that. And do listen to the thing I did with him. It's 20,000 Leagues. It's on Apple Podcasts. You can get the audiobook at Barnes & Noble. And it's on most audio platforms. And I think, I also have it on the YouTube channel. So take a look. I think you'll enjoy it. It's great to listen to in the car.
Yep. And
thanks, folks.
Got that up for you. So great. Thank you so much. And yeah, I'll reach out to you in the coming days, see if we can't work something out with you again.
Sounds good. Take care, all.
Take care.
Night, Tom.
Bye.
Okay.
Wow. Was not expecting that tonight.
Yeah, well, like we always say on Thursday things, when you got a good guess.
Yeah, you let him talk. Sorry, I'm an up. Like, no.
Hollywood.
That's for the birds.
I see what you did there. Yeah, and it's not what it used to be. It's really not.
I don't know. Some of the chat did bring up A24. I do think they also, like, I guess Blumhouse would take more risks on like up and coming directors, but they're not like the main studios, They're
And yeah, and that's mostly horror, right? It's easier when it's low budget. You're not looking for big names. Like he said, you're minimizing the risk.
I would argue A24, it's horror, but it's also other things. It's just kind of weird. Like Uncut Gems was one of my favorite movies of the last decade, and that was an A24. But that was more, I think they mentioned it's like crime/thriller type movie. But it's Adam Sandler, but and in a weird way, he's almost playing like an Adam Sandler style comedic character, but in a different environment, and it's very unsettling. Yeah.
Neon is another one that comes to mind. That's going, I think, along the same tracks as A24. I think I'm trying to. There's a movie out right now called Presence, and that's directed by Steven Soderbergh. I don't remember if it's A24 or Neon. I think it's Neon. It's being marketed as a horror film, but it's really not. It's really a family drama. It just happens to have a ghost in it, And
interesting.
And I mean, there's horror in it, but it's something that could happen. With the exception, of course, of the ghost showing up. I really don't want to go into too much detail, but it actually is worth seeing. But that's, again, if you want to pick somebody, Soderbergh definitely is, walks to the beat of another drummer, especially lately. Someone who's not afraid to experiment. It's just a name I like to throw out there. Certainly, somebody who has been around since the 80s, but still very much has that independent streak. Panos Cosmatos, who was brought up during the conversation. Alejandro Marin, who Paulie's had on a number of times. They're there.
Yeah.
But they can't survive in that studio system. They have to go independent. And that's a much rougher road to take to get the financing to get your movie out there.
But you have more creative freedom, at least.
Also very true. Curry Barker comes to mind, who has the That's a Bad Idea site. He and Cooper Tomlinson, they did a movie for $800, and it's fantastic, called Milk and Cereal. Chris Rupert with Transient. Travis Grant and Critical Drinker with their film, Rogue Elements. We have this chance now where we can support these filmmakers who are outside of Hollywood. Who's the next David Lynch? Who knows? Maybe we find the next David Lynch on our own. Maybe somebody who comes across this broadcast. Here's the thing that always sticks out in my mind. Years ago, I was watching an episode of one of those entertainment shows. I think it was like Showbiz Today or one of those. Anyway, they're at the Telluride Film Festival. And the camera goes by this kid. Couldn't have been any more 19 or 20. Showing his movie projected on a sheet, taped to the side of a building to two people. And to me, that's what it's all about. I'd rather watch that kid's movie than some $300 million piece of crap with CGI my cat could do better.
Yeah.
Like Ant-Man and the Wasp. Oh, no, Ant-Man and the Wasp. Yeah, no, the Quantum Mania. I'm thinking of the Quantum Mania movie, not the Wasp.
Oh, and if y'all saw in each of our chats, RD had been chatting. That's Tom Conko's other channel. Make sure you go over there and subscribe.
Oh, okay.
I'll drop the link for it.
Sure.
I'm like, oh, who's RD? Let me find out who this person is. Yep, it's Tom Conko's other channel. I will drop that link. Tom Conko.
Crafty guy.
Channel. Well, it's like, hey, I wanted to encourage another YouTuber, but I'm like, oh, it's Tom. Well, I would subscribe to him anyway.
Right, exactly.
So give me a second, and I'll drop it in each of our chats.
Thank you.
And Tim Smith, I'm sorry if you felt ignored, but we didn't want to interrupt our speaker, and we don't always pull up like every comment or discuss them. So I'm sorry if you felt ignored, but we weren't ignoring the chat.
No.
We were, however, enjoying our unexpected guest.
That was pretty awesome. Yeah. Yeah, you take them when you can get them. That was great.
And it also did not help that I lost the chat a few times during the course of the show, so I kind of had to scramble. But
and you weren't totally ignored because Tom Conklin even said as RD that you were making some great points.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly right.
Don't know what to tell you. Sorry you got your feelings hurt, but
guys, always remember there's a lot of people on 4 different channels here in different chats. It's hard to keep up. That's why there is a way to highlight your comments. Just remember that.
Mm-hmm. So just because, this is something that I do want to remind everybody. And hello to, I'm also seeing Charlotte C in the chat, who I haven't seen in a while. So hello to you. And of course, Wade joined us during the course of the show. Hello, Wade. And Cyberpunk Dystopia is also with us. There's a lot of spinning plates going on backstage on a lot of these shows. And so, just because we don't bring up a chat right away does not mean that we didn't see it. Sometimes we have to wait like this to an end of the show to
or if just
help me out. What's the word I'm thinking of?
That we need to bring it up because we may not feel it's really part of something that we're talking about at the moment.
Yeah, we do have to kind of stay on topic as much as we can. But yeah, anyway.
Well, he did make a point I would like to address. Said there may be lots of David Lynches. There's no audience for a David Lynch anymore. I say there is an audience. I think we're the audience.
Exactly. this show that we have every week. Yeah.
This is why, we've met people because we did this show. I say on my channel all the time, be the competition.
Yep.
Yeah. You know what? We can mock Disney. We can mock mainstream Hollywood all we want. We have a chance because we have people within our sphere. The Tom Conkles, the Curry Barkers, the Eric Julys, who are going out there and making their own films. We have Darkwoods Presents. He's a writer.
Yeah.
I've made attempts at it myself. Yeah, I'm not claiming anything I write is good. I'll write something down. I'll write a page or two and think, oh, that's brilliant. And then somebody will send me something and I'll go, shit, it's actually really good. This person's playing on a whole different level, Who's going to be the next David Lynch? I don't know. Who's going to be the next Tarantino? I don't know. But they're out there. And I like to think that maybe they'll come across this broadcast and be encouraged. So there's an audience. David Lynch found his audience. We know we're part of that audience. Tarantino found his audience. Steven Soderbergh found an audience. Alejandro Marin found an audience. Tom Conkle found an audience. So we're there. And whoever that next auteur is, or the next writer, or the next comic book creator, my hat's off to you. And I wish you luck. And I'll do what I can to get the word out. And I think that's the point in the end.
I think maybe what it comes down to is, the next David Lynch, as Michael Bublé says, just haven't met you yet.
Maybe there's somebody out there right now who comes across Twin Peaks on Paramount Plus, or maybe somebody just passed them a copy of Blue Velvet and they're watching it right now and they're getting inspired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope so.
All right. Yeah. So, next up, there's a little British science fiction series called Blake 7.
You might have heard of it.
Starting slightly late, but that's fine.
Yeah. In fact,
we had Tom Conkle.
Yeah, we had Tom Conkle. We weren't going to pass up that opportunity. So as soon as we wrap up here, give us about 5 minutes to hit the head, and then then we'll get started on Blake 7.
Indeed. And last call. Friday night last call.
Oh, yeah, Boomer, what was it we talked about?
Well, we toyed with the idea of maybe talking about what it was like to be, what it means to be, or what it Gen X. Talk about Gen X, period. Maybe we'll bring up
we throw out all these terms all the time.
And I don't think people know what Gen X
means to be Gen X.
Yes, maybe we'll do a little thing on that. So yeah, I'm thinking about that.
Yeah. And the next Monday night movie, has that been planned out yet, or is that up in the air?
It has not. And you have about at least through Friday to influence me.
Well, if you want, sweetie, you could start with Z and work your way.
No, I just kind of ride by the seat of my pants, just and no, I won't be doing the Fellowship or Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants or whatever.
I don't even think we own that movie. I've never even seen it.
Yeah, I just
Hey,
know
Mark.
it exists. Hey, Mark. Welcome. Yes, we're just wrapping up and we're going to jump over to Blake 7. But if you stay where you're at, Mark, as soon as this stream ends, you'll be shot over there like a teleport.
All right. Netter, what do you have coming up for you have Thursday things this week?
The guest that I was trying to get for Thursday things never got back to me on whether or not they could do it, so it looks like it's going to be me and Troy. And just letting people know, the following week, which I believe is the 6th, Troy and I will be at MegaCon.
Yep.
So we will not have a regularly scheduled Thursday things. I might meet up with somebody at the con that I can do an impromptu
interview with, maybe. Yeah, we'll see. Maybe. We'll see. Might have a surprise for you.
Or I might just record stuff on there and then post it later after we get back home.
Exactly.
Now, we are doing something insane. So we're going to MegaCon. We've made no secret of that. And you also know that we've been married. It'll be 33 years this year. We are not flying up there. We are driving from Illinois to Florida, which is 16 hours.
Have fun.
One way. We're going to see if we're still married by the time we get back.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, we've been on driving trips where I think the longest driving trip we've ever been on has been 8 hours. And that was just like taking our time going to visit relatives in like Ohio. I mean, usually we make it there in 6, but if we really take our time, we stop and eat and all this sort of thing, it could stretch out. This is twice that.
Yeah.
So I've actually figured out that we'll drive about 8 hours. We'll stop for the night, get 6 or 7 hours of sleep, and then pick up again. So we're planning on getting into the con somewhere around Wednesday early evening.
We'll talk more about that on Thursday, though.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
But it's going to be interesting. So that's Thursday, and then Saturday is wait.
I believe
Saturday's
it's
me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Fantastic Beasts, it will be my movie, and so if you like, Harry Potter stuff, you'll like this because it's kind of a similar vein of the kind of beasts that they showed in Harry Potter. And I really like this movie. I mean, it really is fantastic beasts that you see in this little world. And I don't want to give too much away if somebody hasn't seen it, but I think y'all will enjoy it. I really do.
There's a scene with an apple strudel.
Is there really?
Yes, you'll see.
I don't remember that part.
Okay.
Okay.
But no Flappy.
Oh, nothing. Like I said, I'll be on Friday with for Last Call, and then Geeky Geezers this Sunday, where we talk about the death of physical media. I mean, just no, it's fine. It's just Sony might be bowing out of Blu-ray production. We'll talk more about that then. And I know Fanzine Vids, I think, was talking about that. I have to see what he has to say on that. But
yeah,
I'm trying to think what else. And Kurtzman's the new Star Trek movie that came out. That
the streaming one that nobody's really
even the critics aren't giving this one a pass. I don't know. But like I said, what do I know?
Look like Star Trek. I mean, I heard that the Delton girl was really cute, but I guess she bursts into flames like not very far into the movie. So
they think that everybody is just trying to ape on. Red Letter Media was bringing this up. Everyone's just trying to ape on Guardians of the Galaxy. They're always trying to go for that vibe, and they're failing miserably at it.
It's the comps. It's the comps, like Tom was talking about.
Yep. I'm telling you.
What can I compare it
to? You wonder if Kurtzman ever watched Star Trek. That's what I'm wondering back in the day.
No, he probably didn't, and he doesn't care.
Yeah.
He just wants to do his own thing.
Yep.
Yep.
Right.
that brings things back around to myself. Right after Troy and Ed are done with Blake 7, I'm going to do a quick unboxing video entitled "The Sleeper Awakens and Joins a Biker Gang."
Wow.
So think
so he's
about
be
what
unboxing his new pajamas and slippers.
So just percolate on that title, and you might have an idea just what I might be unboxing. I will be joining Outlaw Bill Thursday afternoon at 3:30 for Action Theater, and we are going to be watching Jack Reacher starring Tom Cruise, adaptation of the Lee Child novel One Shot. Pretty decent adaptation, so check that out. Of course, right after Thursday Things will be coming attractions, where I will let everybody know what I'm going to be doing next week, including my next appearance on Films with Friends, where Big Al Presents and I are going to be watching Disney's Those Darn Ants. No, sorry, Them from 1954. Starring
is that a combination of Bug's Life and Ants Gone Wrong?
Something like that, yeah.
Now I'm thinking of Fred McMurray in a giant ant movie. You got that in my head now.
All right. So yeah, and of course, check me out on Sunday. Brand new episode of Unscripted at 8 p.m. This is episode 98, entitled "The Great Divide." So check that out. All right. Netter, would you like to take us out with your last words?
I can definitely do that. I'm glad you specified with last words and not, like any other way.
Your closing. Yeah.
Well, y'all know what I always say. We can talk amongst ourselves, and that's all well good and fun. But it's so much more fun when you guys are joining us in the chat and you're dropping your comments, questions, trivia, being goofy, whatever it may be. And it doesn't feel like we're separated by miles or continents in some cases. It feels like we're all hanging out in our family room. We're enjoying each other's company and passing the popcorn and just having a really great time. And you guys, you're not just our friends. You are our family. We love you guys and we appreciate you so very much. I mean, you can be anywhere right now and you're here. It's so encouraging, not just to those of us on the panel, but to those in the chat as well. I mean, like for me, I know if I don't see you, it's like I wonder where you are, and it makes me sad not to see you. So even if you can't make it to a stream, like stay the whole time, can you stop in, just drop a hi, and got something else I got going on, but wanted to say hello just so we know you're okay. Excuse me. And I also want to thank y'all for the many, many ways that you support our channels. Between the thumbs up, the comments in the chat, the comments after the streams are over, sharing out the streams. For those of us who are monetized, you become members, super chats, super stickers. I mean, you guys are Osmo. You really are. And I'm saying this all the time. We don't do this for us. We do it for you. And I'm glad you like what we're doing and you keep coming back. So you keep coming back. We're going to keep doing this. So thank you again for being here. Thank you for your support. And until next time, which will be in just a few minutes over on Troy's channel.
Yep.
Good night and God bless.
Okay. Boomer, any last words before we close?
Nothing. This is a great stream. Thank you, Tom Conk, for popping on, and check out his link for his for the movie he's working on, and see if you want to support it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. Once again, I would like to thank everyone who joined us here in the live chat, everyone who joins us later on watching the replay. Thank you very much once again to Tom Conkle for joining us. and of course, everybody who joined us here in the live chat. From HQ, the corner of Sparkwood and 21, and all points north, south, east, west, and beyond. Good night, take care, stay strong, be safe and healthy, because this is how we win.